welcome to this week's episode of Couple Arguing About Video Games. I'm Jesse.
I'm Sophie.
Today we're talking about Far Cry Primal.
For the PS3.
Yes. Or 4, which is what we played it on.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, we've got off to a great start. Far Cry Primal is the 5th Far Cry game by Ubisoft. It's the first one they've not done a number on.
Are we saying Ubisoft or Ubisoft? So one of the first things that struck me when I played this game was just how foreign and abnormal the environmental sounds were. Like, it really did a good job of making you feel like you were from a different time.
I think, so it creates this whole, nature that you're not used to. So it's familiar, yet, you're
it's
right.
It's like an alien atmosphere.
Because it is so different, the whole world's so different. I think they captured that really well. For me, the coolest thing they did with sound, this is a really brave move by Ubisoft, whatever the fuck we're calling him. Being caveman, I'm not going to speak English, so they came up with their own language. I don't know if it actually does translate, I don't know if that's a functioning language, but they've got subtitles, which surprised me when they first announced the game. That was one of my concerns, and they actually did it, and they pulled it off. It's quite cool. On the downside of that, I guess, it annoyed me that they still spoke in full sentences. So when you read it, it's like,
it's coherent.
Okay, you're articulating really well, better than I can. Shouldn't it be like, ugh, taka hungry, taka fuck?
You could say that that's part of the translation though, because even if the words they're saying might be simpler, this is what they mean. Translation isn't just a literal, this means this. It's about interpreting.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Nah.
Maybe there should have been an option for a voiceover. Because I know some people don't want to read subtitles. I don't have a problem with it.
I just couldn't be bothered, and then
It reminds me of back in the day when you put on SBS to watch porn. And it's like subtitled porn. It's like, get it, you're both friends.
And there's a guy riding a bicycle. The bicycle becomes a girl, and he's like,
fucking pervert, mate. So I think this is by far the prettiest Far Cry game, which makes sense, being the newest one. You would hope so. My only disappointment was, as pretty as the game is, I found the world as it fits the story, it fits the world, but I found it really bare bones. Again, it makes sense. I don't know what my complaint is really here.
Well, because it's like pre sort of construction and modern times, there aren't any, you don't look off into the distance and there's temples and shrines and palaces and stuff like that. So
like real life.
As much as it is very beautiful, there isn't really any big visual landmarks to sort of guide you
when
around.
You compare it to the last two, where you can find your way around by just seeing landmarks, and those landmarks are visually stunning, especially number 3. It's just iconic locations. I found this one a little bit of
Something that both impressed me and annoyed me about the game is that the foliage is so dense. This is the most dense sort of landscape I've been in a game. It's as if you're actually in the wilderness, and there's particle effects of petals and bits of trees and leaves and stuff everywhere. But on the downside, it's hard to find your way around, especially when you're hunting. You'll be sprinting to try and chase down an animal, and then you're actually on the edge of a cliff, and and
the animals disappear. It's like, where the fuck did you go, man?
Yeah, and you look around and it's like, it's nowhere. Yeah, so it has its pros and cons.
Though when it comes down to characters with the visuals, the brutality and savagery is so well shown. Like, when you take somebody down, you take a motherfucker down. There is blood, there's guts, there's people eating arms, motherfuckers on fire, screaming.
I noticed that collecting items from animals is even more brutal, even though that's the same thing.
Yeah, you actually really... You hear it?
Yeah.
It's like hollow...
Yeah. It's actually like you're ripping ribs out.
I've never killed an animal, so I don't know what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I mean, you when you're daily ripping out ribs and stuff, so...
Yeah.
To feast.
Oh, the ribsy. So Far Cry Primal is quite a big departure from the usual Far Cry formula. It still has your survival, you still got to build up your skills and sort of generate your tribe in a sense. However, there's no guns, there's no dude bros. It's really it's the same but very different at the same time.
Yeah, they're taking the familiar and they're putting it in such a different setting, which is quite refreshing for the series. I think it needed something like this. It does really change up the way you play. So it's a lot more close combat with clubs and your and spears and your bow and arrow. And your grenades, which I never got up to. But I know there are bee grenades, and I'm up for any game has bee grenades, because I think bees are deadly.
I mean, you can still play it in the same way you play the other Far Cry games. Like, there's a primitive version of the weapons, like the grenades. There's also a sniper bow that zooms in somewhat. I assume you just use your eyes to zoom in or something. So you can still play it that way, but it's enough that you won't have an easy time. It's still, you've got to get quite used to it. Like, one thing I noticed is the animals are quite a pushover in the previous games. Like, if you wanted to get from point A to point B, you can pretty much run. You might see a bear or something, you might get hurt, but you're certainly not going to get killed on your way.
They were just hassles on the way, but in this one, it's... So I think in the older games, it was you versus the enemy. But now it's really you versus nature. And the enemies that just happen to inhabit that world.
The humans are quite easy.
Ridiculous.
The animals, oh my god. Especially if wolves see you and there's 5 wolves and you can't run away from animals pretty much. You can't. You have to fight.
No, I jumped off a cliff. There was a wolf chasing me. I'm like, no, this isn't how I die. I jumped off a cliff and died. Fuck it. Not letting that wolf take me. There was a lot focused on the whole crafting, but again, in the short time we played, I didn't think the game really convinced me to do it, because I was finding beating enemies a bit easy. One of the other things I've added to this game, which I am indifferent about, surprisingly, you can tame animals now. The reason I'm indifferent is, for one, it's awesome. You get to go into a fucking campsite riding a saber-toothed tiger, with a bow and arrow. Like I used to have wet dreams about that type of shit. But it's really easy to tame an animal, so all you do is you throw some meat and you pet it. The fuck is that? Like, I was playing this game an hour ago. I'm not very far into this game, but I found this big tiger, and I've tamed him in the exact same way I would do one of those Dahole.
The fucking Dahole.
Does
that even exist? I'm convinced Dahole isn't a real animal.
I think it's a joke by Ubisoft.
Some specific French dog.
So basically, it is the Far Cry we know and love, stripped back, put into a new world, and not enough is added into that new world. Okay, as for the story, there is none. The story is you play as a whatever tribe, man. Wenya. And there are 3 other tribes, and you take them down, and that's it. Far Cry has amazing stories and amazing villains. What the fuck is in this one?
I was very disappointed that there was no flamboyant villain.
Yeah, so in number 3 you have Voss. In number 4 you have Pagan Men. Pagan Men. Where's the caveman pagan? Where's caveman men? We have to fill up the story part with puns because there's no story. At least the world keeps you interested. You do want to explore the world, but I had no drama with the story. I found characters could have been interesting. So I can't remember any of the characters' names. So far I've met really cool warrior lady who has a necklace of ears. Sorry, there's a massive difference there. She seemed really badass, but she's just at your village. There's some crazy guy who tames animals, who reminds me of the guy who sells guns in number 2. Can't remember what his name is. And I think
and also the drugged up boys.
In number 4? Kind of. Yeah. And then the last guy I just met has 1 arm and he pissed on me. So it's like being at Flinders Street Station. He just threw me into a cave and was like, oh, I piss on you with my 1 arm. I know people had complaints about 3 and 4 storytelling, but it was that fish out of water, you're a dude bro, but you're being dropped into the real world that you don't know. And you're forced to, adapt. It's a far cry from what you're used to. In this one though, you've grown up. Like, before you played the game, Tekka has grown up in this world. He knows what's going on.
I feel like that's what they were going for. Instead of making it that you are a character, you're a certain character, and then that character is getting put into a different environment. I feel like this was almost the game version of that for us as ourselves.
That'll be a really interesting ending at the end of the game. You know, you wake up and you're in the Animus from Assassin's Creed. Dun dun dun. All the games have been linked then because Watch Dogs is linked there as well.
What about Rayman? Best Ubisoft franchise. Number 1. To be honest, I didn't think I'd like this game from the start because I don't play too many shooters, or at least realistic shooters, but Far Cry, I just love the Far Cry franchise. It's one of the only FPSs I really love, and it's in my top 10 games. However, I actually really like this game despite not having any guns. The Far Cry formula was still there enough to really sort of draw me in, and I'm really enjoying it so far.
So when it did get announced, I was really excited because I love we both like Far Cry. I really like Far Cry, and I really like Cavemen because beards, which I shouldn't have shaved for this. And so he was like, oh, it doesn't have guns, I'm a fucking simpleton. And I called her a simpleton for it.
I need my shotgun.
Yeah, which is just fucking expand your mind, bruh. So I should have loved this game. I love it for all the Far Cry reasons, which doesn't make any sense, like the exploration and stuff like that. I found that really cool. Crafting had its flaws, but I liked it as well. But the story's so lacking. I love a good story in a game, and you can't do much in caveman times. It's not like, oh, I'm the evil caveman, I'm going to take over your world. What accent was that? You can't have that, but something. Have it like a volcano or some shit.
And one of the things I do really like about the Far Cry franchise is the dialogue. Like, I feel like especially between the main character and the villains in the past, a lot of the dialogue has been really good, especially with lots of modern references and jokes and humour and that kind of stuff. So that is obviously missing.
Yeah, this one should have like an audio tape, but it's just like a rock. It's like with like a
Just hearing
it's like a bird on it. It's like, oh, bird rock, fucking great. Bird rock from the sun. Actually, that annoyed me because you walk past villains in the other one, then you get to hear like, oh, that whole game with a clap and stuff like that. Apparently Sean Connery's in the game. In this one, it's like,
Do they
actually
say anything?
Whenever I found enemies, they're getting attacked by other animals. That's all it is. And I don't want to fight the enemies. I'm going to annoy the animal. I don't have time to, I ain't got time. I don't trust like that.
One thing that interests me, just on the public reaction to this game, is
I hate the public.
Obviously the map is incredibly similar. The colours are so very different, and the animals and everything is so very different that you don't notice it at first, but if you have played Far Cry 4, you will start to notice a lot of similarities.
So it is the same map, basically. Isn't that a bad thing? Everyone's like, oh, same map, oh, rest in peace Ubisoft, this game should have been $4. Eat a dick, okay? This game is different enough. Fuck your FPS shooters and stuff. Your Call of Duty comes out every year, and the exact same, okay, it's slightly different maps, great, but it's the same game. At least Ubisoft had balls here, and made a really brave move. Yeah, it didn't pay off in full, but fuck, credit to them.
But to be honest too, I reckon there have been more changes, I guess, gameplay-wise and story-wise between 4 and 5 than there were between 3 and 4.
It's not 5, it's Primal.
Oh, 5, Primal, same shit.
Games don't do numbers anymore.
Anyway, I just find it interesting that this game's copying a lot of shit, whereas Nintendo did it with Majora's Mask, and it was sort of praised as being innovative and clever and smart, getting a game out in a year using the exact same materials and just turning the formula on its head a bit.
They've definitely changed the way I see Far Cry games and what Far Cry games can be, because yeah, you do think of them as, so this is what I boil Far Cry games down to. Survival, outpost, or guns. But now I realise all you really need is survival.
Well, that's what you meant to. The whole point is you meant to be thrown out of your element and survive.
I found it really refreshing. There were just a few ideas that are a little bit half baked. What review would you give it?
I would give it 33 mystical owls out of 45.
I would say this horde didn't give me the clap, but I definitely have a rash out of 10. So thanks for watching. We'll be back next week. Hopefully we'll get it out on time. If you like it, comment, share it. Do all those fucking things that people do.
Tell your parents about it.
Don't add us on Patreon. We don't have one.
Fuck Patreon.